As Captain Miller returned to the cockpit, a faint smile playing on his lips, the once stifling silence in the cabin erupted into a chaotic symphony of whispers, gasps, and animated discussions. The suppressed emotions of the past minutes burst forth. Brenda, her face a fiery red that seemed to scorch the air around her, practically dove into her actual assigned seat, 2C, 2 rows behind, turning abruptly to stare out the window. Her body language screamed humiliation, her shoulders hunched, her head bowed. The shame of her public exposure radiated from her, a palpable force that even the most oblivious passenger could feel. She tried desperately to become invisible, to escape the hundreds of eyes she imagined were still fixed upon her. Jordan, meanwhile, leaned back into his plush seat, closing his eyes for a brief moment. He took a slow, deliberate breath, the subtle rise and fall of his chest the only indication of the internal processing taking place. There was no smirk, no triumphant glance in Brenda's direction, no outward sign of satisfaction. His silence, serene and unburdened by malice, spoke volumes, a testament to a character that found no satisfaction in another's downfall, only a quiet, resolute vindication. He wasn't seeking revenge. He was simply reclaiming his space, both physical and metaphorical. He had seen this scenario play out in countless iterations throughout his life, and his response was honed by experience and a deep understanding of human nature. Yet, Brenda's indignation, though now thoroughly tinctured with acute embarrassment and profound shame, refused to fully dissipate. The bitter taste of defeat gnawed at her. She couldn't, or wouldn't, simply let it go. "Everyone's acting as if I've committed a crime," she muttered, her voice low and bitter, laced with self-pity and a desperate attempt to externalize blame, though still audible to those around her. "I was just tired and sat down. Anyone could make a mistake." She fidgeted in her seat, unable to find comfort. Jordan slowly turned his head, his gaze settling calmly upon her. His eyes, usually warm, held a deep, unblinking clarity, a quiet force that compelled attention. His voice, a low rumble, was pitched just loud enough to carry through the hushed cabin, a gentle yet undeniable thunderclap that cut through the lingering tension. "It was what you said afterward that mattered. More than the seat, ma'am." A sharp, almost painful silence followed his words, punctuated only by the soft hum of the aircraft. The truth of his statement hung in the air, heavy and irrefutable. "Intention doesn't negate impact, ma'am," Jordan continued, his voice even, devoid of any anger, yet brimming with a profound conviction that resonated with the collective experience of many in the cabin. "When you assume someone doesn't belong somewhere, when you dismiss their right to occupy a space based on superficial judgments, whether it's because of their appearance or unspoken assumptions, it's not just about a seat on an airplane. It's about something much larger. It's about a fundamental disrespect that goes beyond a simple inconvenience." His words resonated, each syllable landing with the weight of years of unspoken experience, of quiet battles fought and won, of a dignity hard-earned and fiercely protected. Brenda, her defenses crumbling but her pride still bruised and raw, offered a weak, almost pathetic retort, a desperate attempt to cling to some shred of moral high ground. "Oh, so now I'm some kind of villain, just because I was tired and frustrated? I'm sure you've had bad days too, Mr. Hayes." She tried to inject a note of victimhood, but it rang hollow. Jordan looked at her, his gaze unwavering, compassionate, yet firm, devoid of judgment but full of an undeniable truth. "No one is calling you a villain, ma'am," he said, his voice softening slightly, imbued with a quiet empathy that made his point even more potent. "But sometimes, a moment like this forces us to confront parts of ourselves we'd rather not acknowledge. It's an opportunity, however uncomfortable, to look inward." The sentence hung in the air, a scalpel-sharp incision into the raw truth of the human condition, a profound statement, delivered with the quiet authority of a man who understood the intricate, often painful dance between perception and reality. Brenda flinched, as if physically struck. His words, delivered without anger, without a raised voice, were far more devastating than any shouted insult could have been. They bypassed her defenses and struck directly at the core of her self-perception. She had been called out, not just for her actions, but for the underlying prejudice that fueled them, and she had been found wanting. The weight of her own words, thrown so carelessly, now pressed down on her with crushing force. Tyler, still, recording from his vantage point across the aisle, felt a thrill run through him. He recognized the profundity of the moment, the power of Jordan's calm dignity. He subtly zoomed in on Jordan's face as he uttered those powerful words, capturing the quiet wisdom and grace that radiated from him, an unshakable presence in the face of such raw emotion. The ramifications of this brief, intensely public exchange were destined to extend far beyond the confines of this pressurized cabin, a small, insulated world about to burst open onto the vast stage of the Internet. He knew, with an almost prophetic certainty, that he had just captured something truly significant. The aircraft finally touched down at Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport, the rhythmic bumps and grinds of the landing gear a familiar herald of arrival. A collective sigh of relief, audible even over the hum of the engines, swept through the cabin. As the plane taxied towards the gate, a soft, ethereal blue light began to emanate from hundreds of glowing screens, casting an otherworldly glow across the cabin. Passengers, eager to reconnect with the outside world, pulled out their phones, some already crafting messages, cutting clips, penning captions, and diligently adding hashtags, their fingers flying across keypads. No sooner had the "fasten seatbelt" sign extinguished than Tyler, with the practiced efficiency of his generation, uploaded his video. He knew it was good, but he hadn't anticipated just how good. His caption was succinct, yet powerfully provocative. Woman tries to claim first-class seat from airline CEO, then disrespects him, and this is how it ended. Horizon Airways, the Trudy CEO, first class, EQ, Karma. He added a few relevant tags, then watched, mesmerized as the first few likes and comments trickled in. The video's ascent was nothing short of meteoric. Within an hour, it had hundreds of views, then thousands. By the time Jordan Hayes, having gathered his sleek leather brief and a small carry-on, had collected his luggage and exited the bustling terminal, it had garnered hundreds of thousands. The analytics on Tyler's phone showed a dizzying upward curve. Local and then national news outlets, ever hungry for viral content that tapped into deeper societal currents, quickly picked up the story, citing Tyler's video as their primary source. It became a sensation, a potent narrative weaving together timeless themes of prejudice, privilege, the corrosive nature of ego, and the stark reality of public humiliation in the unforgiving glare of the digital age. The online community, a swirling vortex of opinions and reactions, exploded. Comments, ranging from outrage at Brenda's behavior to triumphant vindication for Jordan, and even schadenfreude at Brenda's downfall, flooded every platform. Instagram, X, formerly Twitter, Facebook, TikTok, the story was everywhere. Memes proliferated at light speed. Screenshots of Brenda's shocked, mortified expression, captured so perfectly by Tyler's video, were juxtaposed with witty, biting captions. When you realize the man you just disrespected pays your pilot's salary, or checking if my privilege is showing. Hashtags like "EQ don't be a Brenda" and "It's CEO of Calm" trended globally. Jordan Hayes, a name previously known primarily within the high-stakes, insular world of corporate aviation, was now a trending topic on a scale he had never experienced. Mainstream media outlets published articles detailing his impressive career trajectory, his visionary leadership that had transformed Horizon Airways from a struggling regional carrier into one of the fastest-growing and most respected airlines in the industry. He was lauded for his calm demeanor, his quiet strength, his unwavering dignity in the face of blatant disrespect. His biography, once a niche interest, was now widely shared, a testament to his journey from humble beginnings to the pinnacle of corporate success. People celebrated his quiet resilience, his ability to embody grace under pressure. For Brenda, the consequences were swift, brutal, and utterly devastating. The Internet's hive mind was relentless. Her LinkedIn profile was doxed, publicly identified, scrutinized, and dissected. Screenshots of her professional accomplishments, once a source of pride, were now paired with snippets of the video, creating an inescapable narrative of hypocrisy. Calls for her dismissal from her prominent consulting firm, Sterling and Associates, began to flood online forums and social media, escalating into direct demands directed at her employer, her partners, and her clients. The outrage was fierce, fueled by the perceived injustice and her blatant disregard for common decency. Within hours, she frantically deleted all her social media accounts, attempting a desperate digital vanishing act. But in the relentless churn of the Internet, screenshots ensured that nothing truly disappeared. The Internet, a relentless and unforgiving judge, had rendered its verdict, and there was no appeal. Her professional life, meticulously built over decades, lay in tatters, her reputation irrevocably stained. Throughout the entire maelstrom, Jordan Hayes remained stoically silent. He issued no public statements, no triumphant declarations, no self-aggrandizing posts. His team at Horizon Airways fielded numerous media requests, offering only a polite, "Mr. Hayes has no comment on the matter." His continued silence, rather than diminishing his impact, only served to amplify the admiration he received. It was a powerful, unspoken endorsement of the adage that sometimes true power lies not in words, but in quiet restraint, in allowing one's actions and character to speak for themselves. He knew that the story's power lay in its organic spread, in the conversations it ignited, not in any manufactured corporate statement. Days bled into a week, then 2, and the video, while still circulating and garnering new views, began to subtly shift its focus. The initial fascination with Brenda's public shaming slowly gave way to a deeper, more profound appreciation for Jordan's exemplary handling of the situation. His calm, composed response became the new talking point, a case study in grace under pressure, in leadership by example. At Love Field, Dallas, a few days after the incident, a middle-aged man with kind eyes and a thoughtful demeanor, who had seen the viral video multiple times, recognized Jordan as he waited patiently for a connecting flight. He approached cautiously, a mixture of awe and respect in his gaze. "Mr. Hayes," the man began, his voice earnest, "I just wanted to say, I saw the video. The way you handled that woman, with such composure and dignity, it was extraordinary. My son and I have been talking about it all week, about respect, about dignity, about not judging a book by its cover. It really hit home." Jordan offered a genuine smile, a warmth in his eyes that went beyond mere politeness. "I'm glad it sparked a conversation," he replied, his voice soft, acknowledging the impact. "That's often the most important outcome." Brenda Sterling, meanwhile, retreated into a silence far more profound and agonizing than Jordan's. The digital world had punished her, but the internal world was far more merciless. There were no public statements, no desperate attempts at interviews or damage control. She was no longer just dealing with the wrath of the Internet, but with the gnawing shame of her own conscience. She spent days cloistered in her apartment, the curtains drawn, the insistent ping of notifications muted. She found herself replaying the scene endlessly in her mind, the sting of Jordan's words. Intention doesn't negate impact, and a moment like this forces us to confront parts of ourselves we'd rather not acknowledge. A constant, unwelcome echo, a relentless tormentor. She saw her own arrogance, her own dismissiveness, her own prejudice laid bare, not just for the world, but for herself. The realization was a bitter pill, difficult to swallow. She had always prided herself on her intelligence, her professionalism, her ability to read people. Now she saw how deeply flawed that self-perception had been. The unraveling of her public image was mirrored by the unraveling of her carefully constructed self. The video, once a symbol of public shaming, slowly but surely morphed into a powerful teaching tool. Leadership blogs across the globe analyzed Jordan's response, dissecting his ability to maintain composure and authority without resorting to aggression. Business schools and universities incorporated the clip into lectures on unconscious bias, ethical leadership, conflict resolution, and the critical importance of dignity in public discourse. It became a contemporary fable, a microcosm of larger societal issues played out in the confines of a first-class cabin. Look closely, a distinguished professor in Phoenix urged her business ethics students, displaying the video on a large screen, in a packed lecture hall. Notice how he doesn't yell, doesn't retaliate. He doesn't need to assert his authority with volume or aggression. He simply allows the truth to speak for itself. He doesn't need to remind her who he is. His character, his very presence, does it for him. That, students, is true power. Not the power of a title, not the power of wealth, but the power of self-respect, integrity, and the quiet dignity that transcends any social hierarchy. The students, many of whom had seen the video multiple times, listened with a new understanding, a deeper appreciation for the nuances of human interaction and the subtle, yet profound, impact of one's actions. Jordan Hayes, ever the steady hand at the helm, continued his work, guiding Horizon Airways through turbulent markets and toward new horizons. The incident, while undeniably significant in the public eye, did not derail him. For him, the true significance of that moment lay not in the viral sensation it created, but in the conscious choice he made, to meet arrogance with serenity, and prejudice with an unwavering commitment to truth and self-respect. He understood that true leadership wasn't just about navigating corporate skies, it was about setting a moral compass for all who looked to him, demonstrating that integrity was the most valuable currency. He carried on, his purpose clear, his dignity uncompromised. Brenda Sterling, though profoundly shaken and irrevocably altered by the experience, slowly began the arduous process of rebuilding. Her consulting firm, after a tumultuous period of public scrutiny and client loss, managed to weather the storm, albeit with a significantly diminished profile. She still worked, but her approach was different. The memory of that cabin, those piercing words, and the unforgiving gaze of 1,000 strangers online remained a vivid, uncomfortable imprint. It was a constant reminder, a haunting echo of a moment that had stripped away her illusions. She learned with painful clarity that character was forged not in the moments of triumph, but in the crucible of failure and public humiliation. She learned that humility, once a foreign concept, was not a weakness but a strength. Whether it truly transformed her at her core, eradicating every last vestige of her former self, was a question only time and her future actions could definitively answer. But the seed of introspection, brutally planted, had taken root. The story, now ingrained in the digital tapestry, continued to resonate with a timeless and powerful message, passed from one conversation to the next, one share to another. Respect is not optional. It is not something you bestow or withhold based on someone's appearance, their attire, their perceived social status, or where you believe them to belong. It is a fundamental right and a necessary foundation for any civil society. Because sooner or later, truth will pierce through every facade, every preconceived notion, and every act of casual prejudice. You never truly know who you are speaking to. The person you dismiss, the person you condescend to, might hold a position of immense power or simply embody a profound inner strength you cannot fathom. But more importantly, you never truly know what your words will reveal about you. They are a mirror, reflecting your inner character, your biases, your humanity, or lack thereof. Back to the world. Seats, titles, and positions do not define who is worthy of respect. Such external markers are fleeting, superficial. Character, integrity, empathy, and the quiet dignity of one's actions. Those are the true arbiters of worth, the qualities that truly distinguish an individual, and the values that endure long, after the planes have landed and the headlines have faded. The Dallas-Fort Worth International Airport was buzzing, as always. Brenda Sterling, now dressed in a simple, elegant, business-casual outfit, waited patiently at a gate for a connecting flight. Her phone, no longer clutched as a shield, rested casually in her hand. She noticed a young airport employee, new to the job, struggling to hoist a particularly heavy, oversized suitcase onto the conveyor belt for an elderly woman who was clearly overwhelmed. The employee, flustered and visibly straining, was turning red with effort, on the verge of giving up. Brenda paused. A flicker of recognition passed through her eyes, not for the employee, but for a memory, a quiet, dignified voice from a past flight that still echoed in the chambers of her mind. Intention doesn't negate impact. And confront parts of ourselves we'd rather not acknowledge. Without a moment's hesitation, without waiting to be asked, without a thought for her own schedule or the minor inconvenience, she stepped forward. "Here, let me help you with that," she said, her voice softer, more genuine than it once was. With a firm, practiced grip, she took one end of the heavy suitcase, and together, she and the young employee hoisted it onto the belt. The elderly woman beamed her gratitude, and the young employee, relieved, offered a surprised but sincere, "Thank you, ma'am." Brenda simply nodded, a small, genuine smile gracing her lips. She walked away, a lightness in her step she hadn't felt in a long time. Perhaps, after all, some changes are quieter, more profound, and truly lasting, unfolding not in a blaze of viral fame, but in the small, everyday acts of unexpected kindness.